All right. If you're not early, you're late. So we'll call the meeting to order. And I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Would someone second that? All those in favor? All right, the minutes have been approved. Board member comments. We will go this way to Mr. Moody. Well said. Thank you, Mr. Moody. Mr. Bonfils.
We'll have a relaxing, enjoyable holiday season coming up, and we'll have a lot to do in January. So,
Mr. Buffington. Thank you, Mr. Bonfils.
I will just associate myself with those comments. And I want to, as always, thank you all for everything that you do each day. You guys are a great crew. Proud to be part of this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Mr. Vega.
I echo all the board comments, and I only hope that I'm selected before Mr. Buffington, because he always thanks staff before I get to thank staff. But thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
Campbell.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments and hope everybody enjoys the holidays.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
End of the year. Another great year. Your works here. Thank you for your dedication, your creativity, your integrity, your passion, and your patience with our questions and requests. It's very well done. I want to thank the general manager and the deputy general managers, the senior leaders, and the managers for their leadership and their willing to set the example for the rest of the staff. And I want to thank my fellow directors as well for their passion, their good questions, and their engagement. And I'm very proud to play a little small part with this organization after 12 years, coming into my 13th year next month. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to everyone. Thank you, Mr.
Kelly.
Chairman.
Mr. Kelly, are you up for renomination?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you. Thankfully.
Okay.
He is, yeah, Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do you want to read Mr. Vega's comments, Jewel? I mean, Mr. Yudd's comments, excuse me. Okay. He will be here, by the way. And then I obviously hope Mr. Bonfils and Mr. Sultan are returned. I think you guys are great board members. Obviously your service is invaluable. So wish you well as far as that goes, and hopefully we'll see your smiling mug in January. I would also like to echo everyone's sentiments, and then for the holidays. And then one thing I would add is that, you know, we kind of look inward at the holidays, right? We try to figure out if I gotten presents for all my family members, but I think it's important to look outward and think about giving to the community during the season. There's a lot of need in the county, although it doesn't appear that way. At times, it's always good to think about giving outside of your family too. So I'd encourage everybody to do that as well. And with that, I will turn it over to our esteemed general manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to start off by thanking all of our essential and on-call staff who worked over the Thanksgiving holiday and who will work over the upcoming Christmas and New Year's holiday. We truly express our appreciation to them and their dedication to Loudoun Water and our customers. During the reports section of this meeting, you will notice that we made a few updates to the groundwater resources report based on member feedback. And also at that time, Alton's going to provide an update on our efforts to gather well monitoring data beyond our systems. On November 15th, staff from Loudoun Water attended a meeting at DC Water. DC Water is pursuing potable water reuse as a resiliency initiative through the EPA RAP program and has invited regional partners to participate in their quest. It's a very broad group, including the Potomac River-based utilities like Loudoun Water, as well as others such as RHSD and Anne Arundel County. The RAP is a voluntary EPA program that provides a convening platform to share resources, knowledge, engage stakeholders to ultimately advance reuse as a water resilience tool. Currently, there are over 70 RAP actions in this program, advancing a range of issues across the country, including stakeholder engagement, science and technology, and operations to make water reuse more feasible. The DC region already boasts one of the most collaborative river basins in the country, thanks to the coalition of regional utilities in our area. The DC water-led RAP action will complement the efforts already underway by MWCOG to advance the Water Resources Development Act water resilience study by investing effort in the feasibility of the water reuse option for regional water supply resilience. The process is just getting started and we'll provide additional updates along the way. Just note that Loudon Water will close at noon on Wednesday, December 24th, and will be closed on Thursday, December 25th, and Friday, December 26th for the Christmas holiday, and on Thursday, January 1st for New Year's Day. Happy holidays to everyone. ERCs through November totaled 4,595. The budget for the year was originally 2,020. And just a reminder that you have no committee meetings in the month of December, and your next board meeting will be in January of 2026. That's it for me.
Thank you, Brian. Jewel, has anyone signed up for public comment? Amendments, the agenda. Would someone like make a motion to adopt the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Board committee actions. We had a CIP Finance Joint Committee meeting. Mr. Sultan is absent today, so Mr. Bonfils is going to fill in.
I will do that. The joint CIP Finance Committee meeting was held on November 19th. It started promptly at 8 a.m. and ended promptly at 9:31. All board members were present, both committee members and from both committees, and we had quorum across the board. So I'm going to abbreviate this report because everybody was there. It is available for review on our virtual meeting recordings at Loudon Water's site. So if anybody wants public or staff would like to see it, it's available. The action item, I'll just go through them very quickly, and they're on our consent agenda. Approval of design services task order for Howardsville wastewater treatment plant. The approval of design service task order for the North Lower Sickland sewer pump station and upgrades. All those were very good presentations, by the way. And then we went into the proposed capital spending plan. A lot of detail there, and I'm sure we'll be working with that plan every month, and staff will be working with it every day. It's a rather extensive plan, so it's on the consent agenda also. We had a capital summary from Tom Lipinski. And that was a lot of good detail. The financial report was done by Sally Deller, and that was all included. It was all included in the report. The next meeting is in January. Each committee will have a meeting in January. If there are any questions, I can take them now.
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bonfils. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Action items, excuse me. Ready to just keep moving on. Action items, approval of the 2026 annual budget by Sally Deller.
Okay.
Sally?
So this is a review of the 2026 budget. The agenda, we'll talk about the process, the key issues, revenues, expenses, quick review of the capital improvement plan, and then any questions. So this was the process. On October 22nd, the Finance Committee reviewed the operating budget. Finance and CIP committees had the joint meeting in November to review the 10-year capital improvement plan as well as the 1-year 2026 capital spending plan. And the combined budget and capital spending plan is presented to the board today, and you'll be asked to approve the 2026 budget. Key issues in the budget includes the 7% increase to user rates, 4.5% increase to water availability charges, and the 8.8% increase to sewer availability charges. These were approved by the board in December 2024 as part of our 3-year rate structure. Growth in 2026 will be projected at 2,580 ERCs. Your chart on your right there shows the trend for the past couple years. This was based on what we have in the commercial plans for 2026. And as a reminder, growth was projected at 2020 to start the year, and then we reforecasted it mid-year to 5,000. Total revenues in the 2026 budget is 209 million. That's an increase of 28.4 million or 15.7% from the adopted budget. And it's a decrease from the projected actual, and we'll get into the pieces next. So the operating portion of that is 143.7 million. That includes your user rate charges, your fees, and other charges. And it anticipates the increase in the customer base as well as the rate increase. The chart on the right there, if you look at the yellow and blue box, our continuing services account for 66% of our revenues. So that just shows you our pieces of our revenue stream. And then the non-operating revenues is 65.3 million. And this includes our availability charges and investment income. It's an increase from the adopted budget due to 13.3 million in availability fees because we're forecasting more ERCs than in prior year, and a 4.4 million increase in investment income just because our current year was strong. The budget was pretty low, so we adjusted that moving forward. Are there any questions on revenues?
I have one quickly, just to confirm. So the 13 million is simply the difference between the 2020 to 2580 ERCs. It's just that.
The increase in availability fees?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's exactly 560 increase.
Also, your rates, your availability charge rate went up. So
Okay.
a portion is also just an increase in what we're charging.
And I know I've asked this question before, but why do we forecast 2580 ERCs for 26 when we know it's going to be more? It's just a placeholder.
No, Sally, they do an analysis of the plans that are in our system and county projections, and this is what we foresee for the next
Did
year.
we do that last year?
We did that last year too, but if you'll recall, part of it was plans or ERCs connections that we thought we would get in December came in January and bumped up that number. And we also had the power plant that came to us and bought a 500 or so ERCs, which was not in our system because that was an upgrade to what they had. So that was not part of our plan.
So we're comfortable with the 2580 estimate for 2026. It's not
Mhm.
going to be 4,000 again, or
It could be.
It could be.
Right, like, there's always connections that we might not know about, just like this year that we didn't know about an expansion and it
Mhm.
happened.
More water, sorry.
no, I know. I'm just.
Yeah, the more water
I
connection.
wish we could get a
more
little
water
bit more
information.
accurate with that number, but I guess it's always better to err on the other side. So, all right, I'm done.
Question, Cheryl, when does the rate increase take effect?
January 1st.
It is January 1st.
Yeah, so you approved one for January 1st of last year, January 1st of this year, and then January 1st of next year. And so, 27. So in 27, we'll do another rate study and come back to you with proposed increases.
And I know in December, we did the communication out about the 3-year rate
Mhm.
increase. Are we
Yeah.
obligated to do any more communication? I'm assuming?
Yes, I will defer to Sue. We
Okay.
actually did quite a bit, but I'll let her chime in with everything that we've done. Yeah.
We have a list, so.
Okay.
We mailed the bill stuffer to all the customers. We did an email blast to our customer newsletter subscribers, including HOAs. We have a note on our DCH lobby monitor, which is new. If you saw that today. We have a note on the bill is ready email sent to LW Connect customers. There's an e-version of the bill stuffer on LW Connect customer billing account page. Currently, there's a homepage story on the website, along with an alert bar. It's on our on-hold messaging in the call center, and it's on a note in the important notice section on paper bills.
Thank you. Sounds very thorough. Thank you.
Sharon?
Go ahead.
I
Mr.
would like to follow, Terry, I'd like to follow up on your question. Forecasting ERCs at a conservative level has some advantages because if we don't want to achieve those, then we're planning to build to that ERC level. I think, where it is fairly conservative, but like you, I do think it's going to be over that.
Well, it's conservative. It's obviously conservative. I
Yes.
just wonder, how conservative we want to be, but I get it. I don't think we need
Well,
to beat that. All
I'm a historic sandbagger, so.
right, well, this is sandbagging. A question for Sue. Can you get, if you go to Loudon Water Connect, can you get from there to the Loudon Water Community High Bond, that website? Is there a link between those two? Like if you Google Loudon Water
Mhm.
and you click on the link, it takes you to Loudon Water Connect, which is the one I've always gone to. But then how do you get to loudonwater.community.high bond, the diligent? Is there any way to get through there to?
Yes. So if you go to the Loudon Water website, where the board member information would be, there's a link. It's called Board Agendas and Documents.
Okay,
And that's how someone would get there.
so you click on that and it'll take you to
That's
the
right.
diligent community webpage.
Correct.
All right, perfect. I was searching for that.
Good
I
question.
couldn't find it.
Yes.
It's helpful.
All right, where were we? Expenses, or we're still on revenues?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, we can move on to expenses. So expenses for the 2026 budget will be 190 million. That's an increase of 12 million or 7% from our current budget. The increases are for personnel, wholesale water and wastewater purchases, system maintenance costs, as well as professional services and amortization. The operating piece of that is 99.9 million, and that includes our personnel, contractual services, materials, supplies, other services and charges, and is an increase of 6.6 million from the adopted budget. And then on this next page, well, another slide, I'll show you the pieces with their individual increases. Depreciation is increasing 5.7 million from our adopted budget, and the non-operating expenses, which includes principal and interest expense, are 9.4 million.
Just a question, Sally, on depreciation. I keep hearing that this current administration is either has already or is going to put in something with depreciation where you can expense this very rapidly over a year or something, 100% amortization over a very short period of time. Has anything come forward yet, or is that not applicable to us?
I think that's construction of new manufacturing plants, is that?
Huh?
We have,
That
yeah,
would-
we have not adopted any new lives or increased, right? We just have our useful lives for
Okay,
each of
so
our
there's no
asset types.
change in that. It's just capital projects that are put in place. And I think next year you can depreciate it over a very rapid period of time
Yes, I
But-
don't believe that applies
to
to,
us.
to us.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Isn't that mostly for tax savings?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be paying
Mhm.
much in the way of
Yeah,
taxes.
yeah, it is. I didn't think it applied to the authority. Is any benefit for the authority to that?
I don't know, it's a good question.
It is.
Okay, so the drivers for the 190 million, the 12.5 million increase, hello. Personnel is 3.2 million, contractual services are 2.4 million, materials are 1 million, depreciation 5.7 million, and 0.2 for principal and interest. And the chart on the right just shows you the percentages of each of those expenses to the total.
I have one
What?
quick question,
Yep.
excuse me. On the operating revenue side, I know you said you were going to get to that. Is that is the shortfall because of the Dominion? That was the Dominion,
The reduction, you mean?
Yeah.
Year over year, yes, we did
Okay.
have some non-recurring revenue streams that won't,
even though it was operating though. Yeah.
yes.
That's why, all right.
Okay, any other questions on expenses?
I'm good.
Okay, quick review of our 10-year capital improvement plan. The 10-year total plan is 1.976 million, and those different color bars, as Darren explained last month, are the different portions of our plan. So up on top in the orange is our broad run, down at the bottom in the gray is finance. So that will show you how each of them are changing over the 10 years.
It doesn't sound as bad when you say 1.976 million. I kind of like that. It's
It's not
not
point,
2 billion.
it's not point though.
1.976
It's
million.
not point though.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I like that.
1,900.
Yeah, it's a comma, it's a point, you know.
1,976 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounded scary that way.
Agreed.
It's a big. budget.
Okay, and then
Good point.
for just our 2026 capital spending plan,
Mhm.
for going to budget 221.5 million, and the pieces are down below with what we're planning to spend on, the biggest being the Potomac water supply, followed by water, finance, wastewater, et cetera. Any questions on the capital spending plan? Or questions in general?
If I could ask a dumb question, Jim makes a, do we pay taxes? We're an authority. Do we pay any taxes at all?
I mean, payroll taxes, we send that in. We do arbitrage calculation that we pay taxes on. If we make more money on our debts, yes, then we should.
We pay sales tax.
Sales tax.
Yeah.
If we have any, but you know, since we're tax exempt, we don't.
Yeah.
We have the letter to not be charged sales tax.
So it's primarily payroll.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
FICA. I did have one question on the spending plan. So for reclaimed water, which seems to return a lot to us as a, as a business, we're spending 700,000 on capital on that one? 0.7 million, 700,000, right?
Mhm.
It seems like a real good return on our investment. That's the way you see it?
Do we have reclaimed in the-
Yes, it does support the overall operation at Broad Run and equates to quite a cost savings. Obviously, we sell the reclaimed water at a reduced rate,
Mhm.
but it's investment in Broad Run or nutrient management, holding down overall capital costs on the facility, really the big ROI. And
Yeah,
at this
I'm
point-
just making that comment because it's an observation. It's really, doesn't have that big of a continuing cost like some of the other projects we have going. So
Right,
it's
and
nice to note that.
correct. And we've built some of the infrastructure, but we've been fortunate in that a good portion of it's been built by the development community. And here you see, we just have small gap closure type projects that are popping up for us in the near term.
Well, I'm sure the data center people would like to get more water if they can.
Does anyone else have any questions about the budget? With that, would someone like to read the motion on the board?
I'll do that. I move the board adopt the 2026 annual budget as presented.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sally. I think that's probably the third time you've done the presentation, but
I have your financial results from November up on the screen. So operating revenues so far total 121 million, which is above forecast by 110 million. That 5.2 million of this is the revenue equalization fee. Non-operating revenues total 99.4 million, which is also above forecast, and it's above forecast because of our data center connections that were expected and the power plant that we just talked about, as well as investment income. Moving down to our expenses, operating and non-operating expenses are 139.5 million and are below forecast by 7.6 million. Capital contributions totaled 63 million. And then through October, here's our equivalent residential connections. So we're at 4231. And I just asked, we said, yes, we will get to the 5,000. So we'll be back to you with those numbers. And then the percentage of data centers here is in the blue. So 55% of our connections so far this year are data centers. And then for our capital spending plan, we have spent 107 million year to date, which is 92% of the reforecast. And then splitting out our user rates, of the 107 million that was spent, 23.5 million was funded by user rates and 83.7 million was funded by availability charges. And then in October, cash and cash equivalents and investments was 425.8 million, and the weighted average yield was 3.88.
can you go back to the ERC percentages chart? Does that total up to 100%?
Yes.
18 is 17 is 25 and 10 is 35 and 55 is
35, 18 and 17.
Yeah, 18, 30, 35, 45 plus
Where am I
55
missing?
is 100.
10, 18, 17, and 55, right?
Yeah, that's 55. No,
18 and 17.
18 is 35, not plus 10
Oh,
is 45.
senior moment.
Thanks for checking me, though. You never
I
know.
know, it's a tough one. I couldn't even add the three numbers.
No, I added it quick in my head.
See, Brent, we talked about Geico's, huh?
Okay, any other questions on?
I'm not
October?
adding up any of these numbers.
That's what a spreadsheet.
Can I make a comment? When I was on the Board of Supervisors, Gary Higgins would always get into numbers, Supervisor Higgins, and he was always wrong. And so whenever somebody else got into number, he would go way in depth on it too. And he would really get himself a real deep hole he would dig himself into. But whenever somebody else would do that, we say, oh, you must be using Supervisor Higgins' calculator. So that must have been what just happened.
Please don't.
Now you
I get one mistake, a freebie.
I'd rather have a Higgins vote. Yeah, it's got- That's a World War II joke.
All right. Oh, we're done with that. Okay. Water resource.
For Jessica Edwards today. She's under the weather, but I just wanted to echo Brian and give a little more detail before diving into Jessica's report on the central system and provide a bit of an update on, at the November meeting, we heard some great recommendations on some improvements to the groundwater monitoring that we've been doing and working on. So we've been busy this past month. We've been working with county administration and the Department of General Services at the county. And what we have arrived at is consensus on, getting a program stood up that largely mirrors what we've been showcasing here to the board that we do in our communal system. So really leveraging the county owns and we help operate some of their public wells among facilities in Western Loudoun. So we're going to look at leveraging those facilities likely along with other wells in Western Loudoun at the recommendation of the consultant. And really, the reporting will look very similar to what we are doing with Emory and Garrett right now, and what we've been doing for a number of years in our communal systems. And so, transitioning into the early part of next year, we're going to be working closely to get that program up and running. And we're excited about that. And then when I do hand it over to Kinsey here today, he's also worked on bringing some of the state level and the USGS reporting back into our monthly report. Although Kinsey's probably going to help touch upon and remind us of some of the nuances to the USGS data and the DEQ level data that isn't quite as insightful for us as what we do in our systems and what we look to do in Western Loudoun with the county in partnership headed forward. So we're excited. We appreciate the feedback and the continual improvement of the program. And pause for any questions before I dive into this report. Okay, thank you.
Just a comment to thank everybody who worked on that. You heard what we had to say. You took it and ran with it. And I talked to Brian on the phone the other day, gave me a similar update. And it's just great that we mentioned something. You guys heard us. You took it to the county and worked with them and accomplished this. So I think it's a real step in the right direction. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, thank you. I'll just touch on the highlights of the central system report. Looking very similar to the past several months. We've got the watch status for regional drought. Our other indicators are in the normal status, and I'm going to really skip ahead just to kind of showcase a couple of things. Here, this is the trend of the Potomac River, and while it's lower this time of year, it's right there within the lower bounds of normal and to the slightly below normal status. But in the overall, we still have the river in its green normal status. And then this is a piece of that. This is sort of the entire basin-wide trends of precipitation for the Potomac Basin are within the bounds of the normal range. Again, regional drought monitoring through ICPRB continues based on the protocols that they have in place. And just in the Goose Creek and Beaver Dam system, we're just continuing to track normal trends there, and we have the reservoir completely full. So take any questions you may have before handing it over to Kinsey.
Quick question, probability, above normal probability of needing releases from the Washington metropolitan area's backup water supply reservoirs through December. Can you just explain a little bit more context of that? You may have been getting there, but I missed it because I was reading. But through December, today's, I think, we're getting to the halfway point. So did that mean that you'd have to monitor, or would releases actually happen through mid-December?
What we see from ICPRB and daily updates, they sort of have these bands of statuses that they watch, and they've placed the entire region in this, above normal probability of releases. But it's really a sort of a broad set of criteria for that. And we see no indication. And again, we receive daily monitoring updates from ICPRB, and we see no indication that they're actually going to make releases just based on where river levels continue to hold day to day. So it's really one of those sort of abundance of caution sort of statuses that they've placed the region into.
Do you have like I think you when you're saying there's a series of statuses, plural, that there maybe isn't one indicator, the probability of a release is very high today. I think that's an important thing for the group to know, that if that's happening, that means some set of criteria was triggered and the decision was made to release to provide more supply. So that's why I had that question. But is there one indicator or one measure that would trigger that decision?
I don't know that there's a singular indicator, but one of the bigger data points that ICPRB is looking at is flow at the point of rocks gauge. That is one of the bigger indicators that they use to make these decisions, but it's also factoring in demands, like what are the demands of WSSC, Washington Aqueduct, Fairfax Water, the big regional withdrawals from the river, and many of the other indicators that we show you here in our report. So that all kind of goes into the decision making, and be happy to bring a little bit more information on this next month to help, give a little more clarity on, how their process works.
Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, Alan, when was the last time they actually released water? I don't ever remember in the 10 years I've been here that they ever released anything out of the Potomac.
It's been years and
true?
years. 2012.
2012?
Yeah.
And then what were the events around that? Was it flow?
I believe so. Time of year.
Time of year is really relevant to them because we're in December. The leaves are off the trees, the plants aren't, pulling water out of the stream. We've got less evaporation. So as we get closer and closer to winter, the probability becomes less, right? So and I think the distinction is that it may be above normal probability of release, but that doesn't mean it's above 50%, right? Like there might be a 15% probability in normal years. It might just be a little above that now. So don't misinterpret that to be a high probability of the need for a release. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And not for today's meeting, but maybe for a future water resources meeting, is looking at Beaver Dam run and sedimentation and lack of storage capacity over time, and kind of what that life cycle is, how we program either hydrographic surveys or taking a temperature on, well, not temperature, but a blood pressure on capacity. But that would be terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are we on to the community systems?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to do this in two parts today. While we pull it up, part one is our traditional report. We are still in watch for Raspberry Selma due to precipitation. The recharge isn't just there. We're keeping an eye on that. And generally, we're keeping a good message to the community about conservation. It's kind of in our DNA, and we're maintaining science in the community. Any questions about our current report about our systems? Good news. Moving on, we've modified our report to include some regional information. Naturally, regional information is fantastic as a gauge of what's going on. We like it. We just stopped short of drawing direct parallels because it doesn't really directly influence us. It kind of is just a general trend. So the first one we've added to the report is the drought.gov website status sheet. It's for Loudoun County. It shows overall drought for the area. It's a NOAA website. You can see that conditions in Loudoun, the entire county has drought to 2 degrees. Any questions about drought.gov and what it's showing there?
So this is the old, we used to have this in the old report, and we kind of got rid of it.
We did.
And
I
that
think
was
we had
back.
an event where it was like the whole county was one
This was
color.
I call this the Charles Yudd report. He didn't like those boxes, which I agree with him.
Well, that's the second one. Yeah, we can get to that one. The second one is the Virginia Drought Monitoring Task Force. It's a DEQ website. Generally, Loudoun County is included in the Northern Virginia region. That is that yellow box at the upper right. Overall, we are in the watch status. However, I've broken out the boxes to be a little more clear. For precipitation, we are emergency. For groundwater, we're emergency. For flow, we're emergency. However, for reservoirs, we are normal. Those are tracked through an average of sites across the Northern Virginia region. The next slide, you can see I blew it up just a little bit to show you kind of where these points are. Speaking strictly to groundwater, there are 4 wells that they average to get that red box designation. There's one in Loudoun County. It's located up near Nearsville. There is 2 in Prince William. Both of those are emergency status. They're very low per historical trends. And there's one in Fairfax that is right now in the watch designation. It's pretty close to the Loudoun line, but it is in Fairfax County. So it's those kind of average of those designations equals that color in that box on the previous screen.
So Kinsey, it's only 4 wells in all of Northern Virginia that's informing that status?
Correct.
Why such a tiny sample size when we have such complex geology and all this?
I think it's just probably over time, just trying to leverage resources they know they have a lot of data on, and a lot of that data leads to a lot of good representation. So I think they try to use that as a buffer, and you can see that even though we have 3 red boxes, we still went to yellow for the region. So I think there is kind of an art to it. It's not direct 1-for-1, and they try to balance that across, all those counties in Northern Virginia are kind of unique and different in their own right.
This is one of we sort of faded this level of data into the background as we were bringing up our groundwater monitoring program with Emory and Garrett and feeling good about that data set. We sort of faded this into the background because of some of those nuances to it. I think even among these wells, some things to consider, not to get ahead of what Kinsey has to share with you, but like the well that's near the county border, near Prince William County, is very shallow. It's 7 to 8 feet to groundwater. The one that's shown as green is in Nearsville, but it's kind of up in an elevated area.
7 to 8 feet?
Yeah.
7 to 8 feet. So
I was questioning his ability to
He was
recall.
questioning my math earlier.
Yeah, I know. I'm going topsoil's 2 feet. What do you mean the well's 8 feet deep?
right. So, it's, again, we felt good about bringing all of this back to share with you, but we just wanted to point out, the nuances to the different data sources.
Huh.
The nuances. That's a nice way of saying that.
So there's a 7 to 8 foot deep
It's
well.
not even a well.
I know, that's all.
But to Kinsey's point, these are USGS run wells that have a long-standing data set on. So that well may not have been put there for the purpose of deep aquifer monitoring, but it became rolled into the DEQ program for the drought monitoring task force. So again, I think part of this is just the resources the state has and that they've been willing to invest in for this task force program. That's why we felt really good about, as an organization, making the investment into what we do with Emory and Garrett for our community systems in a more localized way. But again, back to some of the feedback we heard last month, for us to see a bigger picture in the county in a similarly robust way, we feel really good about the ability to get that going. And, after just a couple of years' time, we'll have, quite a data set like we have today for our community systems.
That's correct.
Hey, Alton, another scientific sort of reason that they picked these wells, they DEQ, that aren't very deep is because they were trying to come up with a multi-parameter system for determining drought. And they wanted to capture the idea that even if you'd had a lot of precipitation currently, if you hadn't refilled groundwater, that inflow back to the streams might not be happening. So they were actually picking groundwater wells that had a bit of a tie to surface water. So even though it says groundwater, it is a groundwater well, but it's really being used more as an indicator of like general surface water systems, which is why there's only 4 of them. So it's really, which is why we took it out of our groundwater report, because even though it's a groundwater well, it's not really indicating our groundwater well levels. It's really indicating whether the groundwater can refill the surface water streams, right?
This seems like, this is the Department of Environmental Quality for the whole state. Northern
Yes.
Virginia is super important to the Commonwealth. And we're in an emergency status here for Northern Virginia based on 4 wells, one of which is 8 feet deep. And it just seems odd. What is DEQ? We're in emergency. This is code red. What is that even, what's DEQ doing about it? They just go shrug their shoulders and go, well, it stinks for them up there. I don't know. What do you do? What is DEQ doing since supposedly we're in an emergency situation up here?
Well, bigger picture, longer term, they are instituting more groundwater management areas and such in different of these regions within the Commonwealth. But to your point, the acute issues aren't necessarily within DEQ's hands. That if you've seen anything like on permits or.
Not just yet. I do think the overall status of yellow plays into that as well. And they have been kind of stressing just water conservation.
Huh.
I would say to Mr. Campbell's inquiry, and it's a complicated package of constraints, environmental constraints, how much groundwater really is there. And then what we're learning as a group is that monitoring information is really sporadic, different, subject to a whole lot of footnotes on a research paper. But we also have elements of risk at the same time. Like if you looked at Northern Virginia, how many other utility providers like us have an area where groundwater is so important? Like our community systems are reliant on groundwater. Our town systems in the rural area reliant on groundwater, but our central system, not so much, right? And other central systems, not so much. So I think it's just a very complicated package of constraints, and we have some stewardship role in trying to navigate through it. So I think the work by the staff has been really great to try and throw it out there and say, here it's getting bigger. One of our colleagues suggested a while back, could the county's properties be used for well monitoring purposes for additional data? We think that is a good idea underway, right? We got a little bit of feedback on that. And then the other thing, and this did come up, Chair, at one of our committee meetings where that risk, we have some skin in the game because of the way the county's policies have called for so long, for so many years, for community systems or communal systems. And that what we're seeing in the Waterford to Paonian Springs example, that the geography where there's the potential for communal interconnect that would be groundwater dependent, it's probably bigger than we've had the conversation about. And the cost to maintain those systems once they are in place, it has been identified as an issue. But all of this goes back to could we help navigate through the complexities with more data? And that doesn't mean that we go out and hire somebody to do a groundwater study in Western Loudoun at this point. But it means that exposure to risk is still pretty high. And because we are who we are, we'll be called upon to be part of a solution in the future. So seeing as much information about groundwater trends as we can is probably the good thing. So I think we're going in the right direction. But to Mr. Campbell's point, it's a complicated package of factors, and having maybe some ground rules for how data is shared and presented. Right now, there's somebody in the western end of Loudoun who wants to do some sort of resort, and the Preservation and Conservation Coalition's report is being used as a means to say, hey, there's a groundwater emergency here. There's a constraint, and they'll have to fight their own battles, but we're in there as well to the extent I described earlier. So I don't know if that puts a period on it or a exclamation mark or what, but more of this information is probably helpful.
Mr. Vega, did you want to say something? And then I remember before I got on the board, I think Emery and Garrett came and did a presentation when we had the Raspberry Falls issue, explaining to the citizens about the geology of the region and the limestone overlay and all that kind of stuff. It was very informative. I can't remember if it wasn't for the public. There was a community, Mark, you remember this. There was a community advisory board that I was part of. And I think Emery and Garrett came to that. Is there a possibility that they could come back and maybe at one of our future water resource meetings, talk about the geology out west? Because I was asking Brian earlier, we have these monitoring wells. Is there any other technology? Like I know oil companies, they can seismically see oil. Is there applications that could be used in Western Loudoun to identify, large aquifers, reservoirs and such? So these are all things that were swirling through my head, and I don't know. It's a lot.
I think the quick thing is, we've certainly been hearing, the questions in this conversation, and we've talked exactly about that, and potentially, Garrett coming and sharing some insight into, in fact, we have a internal meeting to talk about that, I think right after the holiday. And so that's kind of in the works.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. And because I was impressed by them a long time ago, so I'm sure they're even more up to date.
I think that's a good idea. And I don't know if they could also discuss the hydrology of the region. And we've talked about this before. You drill a well and nothing, you go over 3 or 4 feet and boom, you're good. You hit the right fissure on the rock or whatever, and it flows great. So I don't know if there's something that's anyone's ever done that kind of a study.
But to Charles' point, it'll just be another information point for us as we go forward to try to understand how to tackle the problem or at least participate. Tony.
To staff, do you guys envision once we have this groundwater monitoring system, I guess once the county, not us, has this groundwater monitoring system in place, that they'll start sharing that information proactively, not just with us, but with some of these larger organizations that we're looking at now? So, because it seems it would benefit them to have better information, which we are going to have. And then a second question would be, I wonder if we should share kind of what we're doing with, I guess, our comparators and our other local jurisdictions in our area that have similar areas. Like I'm imagining, and I don't know for sure, but Prince William County and Fauquier County probably have similar situation as we do. So maybe we could let them know, hey, we're looking at doing this. Is that something you guys would be interested in doing as well? Because if they did, then we'd have a lot more data and more accurate data in our whole sort of region, like kind of the northern part of that yellow area on the map up there. And maybe then once we really have some better information, not just in Loudoun, but around Loudoun, that might come in really handy at the state level or whatever level, if anything ever needs to come from those levels. At least we'll have more information to provide. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm always happy to share our data and see where it goes, and then pushing it up versus down and working with our neighbors is kind of what we're built around. So we'll continue to do that.
I think I'll add to what Kinsey was saying as we met with county administration and Department of General Services, I think there was certainly a feeling of wanting to be methodical about this and do it the right way and start to develop a long-term robust data set and not necessarily a knee-jerk rebuttal report. And I think that's been acknowledged by multiple folks here today. As part of the work Kinsey's been leading over the last month, what has stuck the most is this partnership with the county and general services, but it's been broader than that. It's been touching base with, other peers in the county for that purpose of starting to say, here's what we do monthly. We'd like to see what you may have and cross-pollinate, so to speak. So that's still part of our plan here as well and beyond the borders of the county. Yeah, just echo what Kinsey said.
And once we start collecting this information, it is publicly available, but I think, some of those other partnering, like some of the towns and different, who would benefit, there's every reason to share it with them. It's just helpful.
Mr. Vega, do you have a question?
Just an observation, Mr. Chairman, just an observation that the map is really DQ. The world doesn't end at the Potomac. There is a West Virginia, MDE, DEP. Is looking at those data sets help in any way as the Potomac River Basin Commission track this or has a subgroup that is tracking groundwater or? Surface water and stream gauge. Okay. Is there any benefit to exploring that, or is this just such a localized problem that it's not really within their purview?
I think it gets back to the comment that Chair Allen mentioned about the different types of geologies. There's distinct geologies all over our region. So localized, right, to your point, you've got east of 95, coastal plain, better bearing aquifers. Where we are, we've got those two different, it's either hard rock fractures that is very localized. And then there's the other that you found at Raspberry, right?
Yeah, limestone.
Right, where you've got your limestone and it's just a completely different, they're like right next door to each other. Those two are right next door to each other and they're operate completely differently. So there is a lot about it being very localized. But the data sharing, right, at very localized sites is still, I think we agree it's useful.
So from a groundwater perspective, it is the end of the world.
Yeah.
No, it's a hyperly local and no one really cares. I don't want to say that, but it's so fragmented. Like the Potomac River affects millions of people. If someone has a well go dry, okay, drill a new well. So I think that's part of the problem too. But as it gets worse, it's going to become a problem.
What I don't understand is how 3 of the 4 metrics are an emergency, but we're in a warning area. And I'm not understanding that. There's no higher alarm than emergency. And yet we're in warning. It would make more sense if precipitation, groundwater and flow were watch, maybe warning. And so we're in a watch. I don't what it does is it tells me I'm just going to we're ignoring an emergency designations should be used when there's real emergencies. And so there just seems like there's a disconnect here that I'm not understanding.
We can look into the guidance from the state to see how they average this together. But going back to our red box here, you can see that for reservoirs, from my eyes, it looks like they're using Lake Manassas as well as the Aquan reservoirs. They're 2 data points and they appear to be full. They're green. And then for their stream, there's a data point in, looks like Arlington that is green near kind of Alexandria. So I think, being surface water heavy, it may be weighted, but we'll do some research to bring it back.
I believe there's actually a published monthly report that goes along with this drought monitoring task force map. And that's probably what we need to dig in. I mean, we look at that, but we need to kind of pull out the information that you're looking for from that.
Yeah, like if there was a real emergency with flow, we'd be releasing water from Jennings Randolph and like things should be happening if there's a real emergency. So it's just weird that the state's going, hey, it's an emergency, you don't have enough, and then we're all kind of like
Nothing they can do.
sitting around. Well, we could at least, we would try to release water from upstream or do, mandatory, like we used to do it in good old Hamilton, no car washing, no watering the front, like there were things that started kicking in when you're in an emergency. And so it's just weird that we're designating those things as emergencies.
I happened to click on the link that staff provided in the report, and it's a week later. And so it's a snapshot in time. Now it's 2 greens and a red.
Oh, okay. So just a very short period of time.
We need updated data.
Live. No, and, but
this
that's
is 5
a
minutes
good
old.
point. It's like trying to understand better so that when we're communicating, socializing data points, we're not overweighing things that are not relevant or underweighing things that are.
I know that there's others that are chomping at the bit to say things, but when Brent was talking about a real emergency, what would you do? Well, there was a real emergency and there was more of an indicator that said something must be done now. For the areas that are groundwater dependent, there is no way to bring water in through the central system and distribute it to the area where the emergency might be. And so that is, mixed bag of, is it really urgent? How urgent is it throughout the area that we might have skin in the game from the policy point of view, where we would be called upon, but there's no backup. There is no distribution system should multiple wells that many people, higher numbers of people rely on, become constrained. And so that probably is also scratching at the need for the data to be able to say, how are you going to plan for this if you have to?
But like in a real emergency out west, for instance, legislation kicks in where it's illegal to water your grass, wash your car, fill your pool, whatever. And I would imagine that in Western Loudoun, if it was a real emergency, you would have legislation enacting certain restrictions. So it's like drink your water, flush your toilet, but all of these things are off limits. That's at least how they do it in the West.
There is an ordinance, but it doesn't, I don't think that has anything to do with the private wells,
No.
which are in the
The
west.
towns.
So I had that in Hamilton and Purcellville, I know, because.
Yeah, in the towns, they would have their own, but
You would think the county would have something. If we're in a real legitimate emergency.
There is, but that's going to allow water.
it's the public systems. It's our central system and our community systems, but not all of the
Thousands.
individual wells in all the houses.
Yeah, yes, I understand that, but I don't know. It just felt weird seeing like emergency, and then we're kind of like,
Watch,
yeah, a watch.
not a warrant.
But I appreciate that that's just a short snapshot in time is what, I don't know, maybe these readings are weekly, daily, I don't know what, but it's
Done last
green.
week.
2 of them are green now.
Yeah.
And.
Oh, it'll be green next time. Don't worry.
I think it's worth noting also that
Yeah.
at least at that moment in time, whenever they got the
Right.
data for
Mhm.
this, Loudon seems to be in the worst condition in the state. So I don't know if that means anything or if it was just that moment of time. I don't know if you looked at this every day for 3 years and then looked at it and did a map like this, I don't know if it would look the same, but if it would look the same with continuous data and we happen to be sort of the worst groundwater situation in the state, then that's worth noting also. And we probably need to be the leaders in whatever we're doing about that because we are dealing with the worst issue. And I'm not saying we are, but if we are, and at least at this snapshot moment in time, we appear to be the worst in the state.
All right, Jim, you're the last one. We gotta move on.
Just looking at that chart and all this discussion makes me really happy about the water banking in the quarry. That helps our central, but it's the wells in the west are not our responsibility.
Nope.
All right, our last report is the water and sewer agreement by We-Tran. Mr. Tran.
Good evening. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Want to have any questions?
I did not.
All right. That concludes the open portion of our board meeting. We will now have a closed meeting. Everyone have a great holiday. Don't make any New Year's resolutions you can't keep, right? Except be nicer to the board.